Hello, faculty. Thank you for joining me today. We are going to be talking about Assure, which is a model used to help assure learning. The Assure model. This model was made up of 6 steps. Each step is designed to help teachers design effective instruction for their students. Assure stands for Analyze, State Standards and Objectives, Select Strategies and Resources, Utilize Resources, Require Learner Participation, and Evaluate and Revise. A. Analyze learners. This was mostly designed for upper elementary students with different learning styles and abilities. So once students get to the 3rd grade, that is when we start giving them examinations to test what their learning style and ability is. This format was made to appear clean, simple, and easy to follow with few distractors. Students in the class have had some experience with research projects, but are still very much novices when it comes to copyright and fair use. The material is presented as an introduction. Since the classroom is made up of different learning abilities and styles, we need lessons to include visual as well as auditory. And by this, so when a teacher does a presentation, the slides are the visual while the auditory is the teacher explaining. Students are given a handout to help solidify the lessons. Students are enthusiastic about this project and are excited for real research. Students understand this is an important skill for the future. So since most students in our district are college prep, we really want to teach them the proper way to look at research. So for example, the standard and objective of this, the inquiry and research, listening, speaking, writing, thinking, using multiple texts. We want the student engaged in both short-term and sustained recursive inquiry processes for a variety of purposes. We expect each student to identify and gather relevant information from a variety of sources, identify primary and secondary sources, demonstrate understanding of information gathered, recognize the difference between paraphrasing and plagiarism. So for students, the objective is, I will be able to identify and demonstrate my knowledge of copyright rules and apply it to my own work. Selecting strategies and resources. The lesson uses a teacher-centered approach. The teacher will be introducing the learning objective definitions and the concept of using a PowerPoint. The teacher will engage students with a video and graphics in addition to the information being offered visually and audibly. Resources have been sourced from various sources and put together by teacher in the original lesson. We also give a handout to reinforce the lesson and also so students are able to take their own notes and write down any questions they might have during the presentation. Utilize resources. Preview the resources. All resources were sourced by the teacher and previewed. Prepare the resources. Lessons are developed into PowerPoint presentations. We feel that PowerPoints are just the easiest for students to follow along with as the teacher lectures. Prepare the environment. Students are in their normal classroom environment. As usual, when there is a presentation, we expect for the lights to be low. Preparing learners. Students need to know the expectations for the mini lesson and are prepared to listen. Provide learning experience. Teacher lectures while students follow along with the PowerPoint. R. Require learner participation. Students will participate in the lesson by 1. Actively listening during the lesson, 2, staying focused on their own learning. 3, asking questions when needed for clarification. 4, participating in discussions with their peers when asked. 5, reading all the provided materials. And 6, participating in the assessments given at the end by the teacher. E, evaluate and revise. The teacher will use formative assessment and antecedent notes to assess the lesson. 1, were students engaged with the lesson? 2, were students focused on the lesson? 3, are there gaps in their thinking? 4, did students ask higher level questions? 5, do the students feel comfortable with the material? And 6, can students apply their learning? So for one thing we want to keep note of is seeing as to how students this age have short attention spans. Well, that's one thing that we as teachers need to work on, because we need to make sure that students are engaged. We want the learning to be fun for them. So if they're dozing off and drawing on paper that we give them in class, then obviously that is a sign to us that we need to change something. Were the students focused on the lesson? Again, this also falls under the first one of keeping the students engaged. Was the student paying attention the whole time? Were they actively taking notes, or were they drawing on the handout that we give them? For 3, are the gaps in their thinking? So we want to make sure that when we ask them a question during the presentation, that they are able to answer it without being too terrified or having a small brain freeze out of having to answer a question after being randomly called in class. 4, did the students ask higher level questions? So we really want students to not be afraid to ask questions along with while we are asking them questions or calling on them during the presentation, which is another reason why we give them the handout. That way they are able to write down the question, and this is a good habit for them in the future, because if they ever go on to secondary education, typically with presentations, the teachers and professors ask that they hold all questions till the end of the presentation. 5, do the students feel comfortable with the material? We want to ask them how they felt about the material, but also we want to take notice while they're learning. Do they have confused looks? If we ask them after we present something on a slide, are they going to raise their hand confidently and say that they understand it or not? 6, can students apply their learning? So after the presentation, we want to see if students understand that what they were presented, if it's something that they are going to be able to use later on in life, or is it something they're going to be able to currently use with their next assignment. The material from this presentation is from Instructional Technology and Media for Learning by Smaldino. Are there any questions? Thank you all for your time, and I hope that this presentation was helpful with your lesson plans.